I know that was applause for Kara, not for me, so thank you for that applause. So I'm going to run through these slides. Many of you have seen this before, and this is a presentation that's meant to be read, not presented, so the critiques about the presentation style are justified. Here is what we're going to go through. I'm going to talk about trends with users, what's going on with e-commerce and advertising, focus on usage trends, freemium business models, what's going on with data growth, work, education, and touch on some things that will be. I won't go through all of them, but there will be more content in the deck that is posted at bond.com and at Recode as well. But some things on immigration and some updates to our report, USA Inc., and look at healthcare. And then the folks at Hill House Capital have created, as usual, a great presentation on some of the trends in China. One of the things that we do in this report is you'll see a lot of charts that go up and to the right. And they go up and to the right because those are the trends in the markets that we're focused on. And I'll zip through them pretty quickly, but you'll get a sense of scale and scope. But before I begin, I want to thank the folks at Bond, especially Michael Brogan and Ansel Parikh, who really put a lot of sweat equity into this report and have taken it across the goal line, in addition to Kara and all the folks that help us with this report every year. You know who you are, and we're very appreciative. So I'm not going to read through the slide, but this is basically the context setting for all that we go through in the report. So internet users. At 50% of the global penetration, new growth remains harder to find. Growth is slowing, up 6% in 2018 versus 7% in the prior year. New smartphone unit shipments actually declined in 2018. You can see from the red line what the growth rate trending looks like. 3.8 billion internet users in the world. Asia Pacific leads in both users and potential. There's still a lot of upside in that region. China is the largest market with 21% of total internet users, India at 12%, the US at 8%. China and India have a lot of upside, the US does not. If we look at the global internet market cap leaders, the US is stable at 18 of the top 30, and China is stable at 7 of the top 30, and those are the two leading countries where internet innovation is at an especially high level. If we look at global market cap leaders, the United States is stable at 23 of 30, and tech is stable at 9 of 30 of that group. If we look at revenue growth for the internet market cap leaders, it continues to slow, as evinced by the red line, up 11% year on year in Q1 versus 13% in Q4. If we look at the market cap leaders, similar trending with 2% growth in Q1 versus 7% year-to-year growth in Q4. Moving on to e-commerce and online advertising, it's solid but slowing. We look specifically at e-commerce. Again, the red line shows the slowing rates of growth, up 12.4% in Q1 versus 12.1% in Q4. Physical retail growth is solid at around 2%, has been at around that level for a while. And e-commerce share gains continue at 15% of retail versus 14% a year earlier. In online advertising, this is a chart we created a really long time ago. We thought it would be interesting to look at the amount of media time spent versus the amount of advertising dollars spent. Mobile hit equilibrium in 2018, while desktop hit that equilibrium point in 2015. If we look at internet ad spending on an annual basis, it accelerated a little bit in 2018, up 22%. But if we look at it, according to the leading companies and their results, internet ad revenue has been decelerating on a quarterly basis, up 20% in Q1. If we look at the platforms that are out there, Google and Facebook continue to lead, but others are gaining share, though from a small base. But this looks at the trends for Amazon, Twitter, Snap, and Pinterest versus Google and Facebook. In internet ad buying, programmatic gains versus direct continue. It's the majority of ad spending at this point, and it's been negatively impacting pricing. If we look at some of the ad share gain drivers, and there are many, but at the top of the list is better targeting, new creative, integrated commerce, and high relevance, and these are examples from Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, and Twitter. Customer acquisition costs are rising in many highly competitive and highly capitalized sectors. This looks at CAC, or cost per activation, in mobile finance apps globally. And the reality is customer acquisition costs can't exceed lifetime value for very long. And for those of you that are in this business, you know it and you often see it. The most efficient and effective marketing is one's own product plus happy customers plus recommendations. Very effective and efficient marketing can be free trial or free tier. One of the best examples of this is Spotify with its free user conversion to paid subscribers. More recently, a great example of this is Zoom, free user conversion to paid subscribers. Another very effective and efficient marketing mechanism can be recommendations, and Stitch Fix is one of the best examples of recommendations, both human-driven and AI-driven, that are driving their customer base and their revenue. There are a couple things in advertising that we don't quite know about yet. We'll call them the TBDs. We don't quite know what the impact of privacy changes will be on ad targeting. And an emerging area that will be important to watch is digital-based TV ads aided by in-hand mobiles and how that impacts the market for ad targeting. Moving on to internet usage, solid growth driven again by investment and innovation. If we look specifically at usage, digital media usage in the US is accelerating, up 7% versus 5% growth in 2017. Most of that is on mobile. If we look at the drivers, one is investment, and it remains robust globally. This is data from Morgan Stanley. Investment, public and private, into tech companies has been very high for 2 decades or more. And if we look at innovation for US companies, and I'll switch to non-US companies, it remains robust. If we look at device time, mobile surpassed TV time in 2018. If we look at online platforms, YouTube and Instagram are gaining the most. If we look at video time, digital is up 2x in 5 years to 28% of total versus TV. If we look at short form video, specifically on the Facebook platform, 1.5 billion DAUs, up 2x in 1 year. If we look at voice, 70 million podcast listener MAUs, up 2x in 4 years. And also on voice, 47 million Amazon Echoes. There's a base of 47 million Amazon Echo devices, up 2x in 1 year. Wearables, 52 million users, up 2x in 4 years. On demand, 56 million consumers in the US, up 2x in 2 years. Local, 236,000 active global neighborhoods, up 2x in 2 years. And then the underserved population. We looked at Square's seller base. It's growing 28% faster in the lowest versus highest income MSAs in the US. If we look outside the US, there's especially high innovation in data-driven and direct fulfillment. It's growing very rapidly. In China, Pinduoduo, connecting consumer preferences and manufacturers, 443 million buyers, up 2x in 5 quarters. China, Meituan, connecting consumers and local businesses, 6 million merchants, up 2x in 2 years. Latin American, Rappi, digitizing delivery, 8 million orders, up 2x in 4 months. Indonesia, Tokopedia, improving product delivery across 17,000 islands, 6 million merchants, up 2x in 1 year. Southeast Asia, Shopee, mobile-first social commerce, 10 billion in GMV, up 2x in 1 year. In India, Reliance Jio continues to marvel, expanding offline access to e-commerce, 307 million subscribers, up 2x in 1 year. And data usage is up 2x in 1 year as they are offering a broad base of Jio services for their consumers who are picking them up and using them very quickly. Also, in innovation outside the US, it's especially strong in financial services. That is an Alibaba slide on the website with their billion users. It's not on here, but you'll see it if you go to bondcap.com. Thank you very much. South Korea, TOS, 12 million users, up 2x in 1 year. Europe, Revolut, 4 million users, up 2x in 10 months. Brazil, Nubank, 9 million unique customers, up 2x in 1 year. Latin America, Mercado Libre, 389 million transactions, up 2x in 2 years. Southeast Asia, Grab, ride-share-driven digital payments, transaction value, up 2x in 1 year. And then moving to usage in other ways, images are increasingly relevant ways to communicate. Images are the oldest form of transportable communication. 40,000 years ago, the first oldest known image is a painting in Indonesia. For centuries, people have learned to write and share words offline and one-to-one and one-to-some. Communication via text and numbers is foundational. But for 2 decades, people have been ramping image and video sharing and video creation and sharing offline and often one-to-many. Going back to what we did 40,000 years ago, image creation, the foundations continue to ramp. If we look at smartphone camera base, smartphone power, cellular data use, and Wi-Fi reach, if we look at image sharing, the foundations continue to ramp, image creation and also image sharing. Image creation sharing engagement continues to ramp. When Twitter launched, this is one of Jack's first tweets, 2006, it was text only. Today, more than 50% of tweet impressions are images, video, or other forms of media. The platform and functionality and usage continues to ramp in image creation and sharing. Instagram has absolutely been a leader there, as has Pinterest. And Google is leading with computer vision and artificial intelligence. People are increasingly telling stories via edited images and videos. Let's look at the growth in the Snap community lens views. And image-based design fluency and storytelling is increasingly self-taught and collaborative, and we're still in the early innings. This is an example of what Canva does with simple collaborative and feedback-driven design on its service. This is a great quote from Kevin Systrom, which summarizes it all. People have always been visual. Our brains are wired for images. Writing was a hack, a detour. Pictorial languages are how we all started to communicate. We are coming full circle. Instagram's inherent feedback systems help users continuously improve their communication skills. After all, would you rather have a picture or words about the thousand words about the picture? Okay. Usage. I'm not going fast enough, clearly. Interactive gaming. It's an increasingly relevant way to communicate. Interactive gaming accelerated 2.4 billion users, up 6% year on year in 2018. Interactive gaming innovation is rising across platforms. It's real-time play, talk, text, and watch. It's social in nearly all ways. If we look at Fortnite, 250 million users, up 2x year on year across 7 platforms. One of the things that drove this business and this product to great success. Talk and text, Discord has 250 million users, up 2x year on year. Watch in interactive gaming, Twitch, time and viewers up 2x in 2 years. If we look specifically at Fortnite, Battle Royale is a game environment capped at 100 million person groups. Fortnite events, shared experiences capped at 100 person groups. And voice chat, collaborative communication capped at 16 squad mates. Interactive gaming, it's shared environments with collective purpose and goals. Are these the new social and friend networks, recreating reality around play and problem solving? Switching to freemium business models, they're growing and scaling. We're still in the early days in enterprise and consumer. Freemium businesses, free user experience enables more usage, engagement, social sharing, and network effects. Premium user experience drives monetization, product, and innovation. Started in gaming, moved to enterprise and consumer, specifically in gaming, RuneScape 2001, more recently Epic Fortnite 2017. Freemium gaming is social, often mobile, and it can be transient. If we move to the enterprise, really started in many ways with Google G Suite in 2006, most recently Zoom. Freemium enterprise, collaborative, business critical, and annuity-like. Moving to consumer, Spotify 2008, Canva 2015. Freemium consumer is personalized, efficient, often social, and annuity-like. Freemium business evolution started in gaming, evolving, emerging in consumer and enterprise, all in. We're just getting started. This looks at the pure play companies with freemium business models that have more than 10 million paid subscribers in gaming, Epic Games, enterprise, Dropbox, Spotify. In consumer, we think there's a lot more to come. One of the key enablers of this has been cloud deployment. Revenue growth up 58% year on year, at 22% of workloads, up 2x in 5 years, and interest continues to rise. Another enabler of freemium subscription business models is efficient digital payments. They account for more than 50% of day-to-day transactions around the world per an annually updated survey from Visa. Data growth is changing the way things work rapidly and globally. Data collection, analysis, and utilization is evolving from humans to humans and computers. Before 1995, winning businesses used human data insights to improve customer experiences. One of the best examples was IBM, focused on product development by feet-on-the-street customer input, drove that to great success. Nike did that with employees who happened to be runners, who helped them design great products to great success. Chrysler did it with focus groups and discovered that the minivan could be a very exciting product and turned the company around. Intuit did this with all in, top to bottom, with the organization, from founder to CEO to president to engineer, focused on customer testing. In the 1990s and 2000s, the internet and mobile devices and cloud emerged. Post-1995, winning businesses used digital data and insights to improve customer experiences. Capital One did this to great effect. Used customer data to optimize its marketing, and Amazon.com did this better than almost anyone else, using customer data to improve the user experience and optimize sales. In the 2000s, something began to happen, and that is companies began to create products that allow other companies to do this. We call them data plumbers. Winning businesses build and use data plumbing tools to use digital data and insights to improve customer experiences. Hang on, I went backwards. Sorry. And this is what these data plumbing tools are helping businesses real-time collect data, manage connections, and optimize data. Qualtrics is helping FabFitFun collect data to understand customer wants and improve business processes. Salesforce helping Adidas collect data to increase customer input and improve products. Stripe and Slack collect data to manage direct customer-subscriber relationships. Plaid and Betterment collect data to improve consumer decision-making. Slack and HelloFresh manage connections to organize internal and external communication. Twilio helping Shopify manage connections to communicate with customers and consumers via multiple channels. Segment helping Meredith manage connections to organize customer data across IT systems. Snowflake helping Instacart optimize data to improve analytics, recommendations, and personalization. Confluent helping Accor optimize data to respond to customer events at scale. Looker helping Farfetch optimize data to discover business insights and optimize fulfillment. UiPath helping Sumitomo Mitsui optimize data to manage data growth and eliminate inefficiencies. A lot of data plumbers helping a lot of companies collect data, manage connections, and optimize data. This is a quote from Frank Bien at Looker. Data is now fundamental to how people work, and the most successful companies have intelligently integrated into everyone's daily workflow. Data is the new application. Data and artificial intelligence used properly can improve customer satisfaction. Retail customers like sharing data if it gives them a better experience. 91% prefer brands that provide personalized offers and recommendations. 83% willing to passively share data in exchange for personalized services. Mark Zuckerberg has evolved his thinking on a lot of this, and early in 2019 said new regulations should protect your right to choose how your information is used while enabling companies to use information for safety purposes and provide services. Data volume and utilization is evolving rapidly and broadly. This is data from IDC that looks at the volume of data that is the data volume. 13% is structured and tagged and is rising rapidly. Data propagation is expanding from endpoints to edge to core and back and around. Data stewardship is evolving. Enterprise surpassed consumer in 2018, and cloud is overtaking both. If we look at data volume share, EMEA leads, followed by fast rising China, and the US is falling. It's a great quote from IDC that summarizes that, and this is from Astro Teller at Google X. Basically, just created a chart that indicates technology changes is evolving faster than human adaptability. If it feels like we're all drinking from a data fire hose, it's because we are. Internet usage. There are concerns and there's goodness. Usage concern, overload. Almost 26% of adults are almost constantly online versus 21% 3 years ago. Social media has lots of positive attributes, but lots of negative attributes. In digital media, users are taking action to reduce their usage, and businesses are also taking actions to help users monitor their usage. What's happened? Social media usage has decelerated, up 1% in 2018 versus 6% in 2017. Another concern is privacy. Privacy concerns are high, but they're moderating. Regulators and businesses are improving consumer privacy control. In digital media, encrypted messaging and traffic are rising rapidly. Another usage concern is problematic content and activity. More than half of humanity and rising is online. The reality is people prefer negative news. This is a quote based on a survey in 2014, and this is a quote from 2019. No one attempting to derive an estimate of the present conditions in New York from the front page contents of our many newspapers could be blamed for concluding that society is on the verge of deplorable anarchy. 1909, James E. Rogers. Problematic content on the internet can be less filtered and more amplified. Images and streaming can be more powerful than text. Algorithms can amplify users' own patterns. Social media can amplify trending topics. Traditional media platforms can amplify social media trending topics. Social media can amplify bad behavior. Motivated bad actors can amplify ideologies. Unintended bad actors can amplify misinformation. Extreme views can amplify polarization. With all that, the internet platforms are indeed driving efforts to reduce problematic content. Consumers and businesses are driving efforts to moderate problematic content. This is a quote from Susan, a CEO of YouTube, and Brian Murphy at the Department of Homeland Security, all indicating we can do better. but that progress is being made, but there's a lot more work to be done. With all that, the perception of the internet in the US, 88% of people believe the internet has been mostly good for them, and 70% believe the internet has been mostly good for society. We're dealing with the age-old challenge of amplifying good and minimizing bad, and it's taking rapid twists and turns. Global relationships related to information and data are evolving differently and rapidly. It's a quote from Mark Smith at Politico and Mark Scott and Brad Smith at Microsoft. In a sense, the World Wide Web as we know it is over. In its place is something altogether different, a balkanized splinternet where your experience online is determined by local regulation. We need a new generation of laws to govern a new generation of tech. This is great data from Freedom House that looks around the world, and partly free internet access is rising, but not free access is falling. This is a framework for thinking about the way Freedom House looks at this. And this is some data we compiled with the help from a lot of other people. We call it the World Wide Web as a web of worlds driven by local regulation. And we look at markets and the attributes of markets with low internet regulation like the US and the largest EU economies moving to more regulation, India and China. There's a great piece in Foreign Affairs in September and October of 2018 that looks at all these markets around the world. And this is a summary of some of those highlights. An open internet can benefit all constituents. Consumers want to get what they want efficiently and inexpensively. Businesses want to sell products and services profitably. And regulators want to protect consumers, businesses, and social institutions. In an open internet, online reviews can boost multi-sided accountability. It's a great quote from Brian Chesky at Airbnb. Safety is our #1 principle at Airbnb. The whole thing only works if you feel safe. We have a few hundred people on our trust and safety team who really work with the Airbnb community to facilitate that. 70% of our guests, when they stay on Airbnb, leave a review, which means we build a system that allows the community to review properties on Airbnb and build trust. The chart on the right looks at the growth in host and guest reviews on Airbnb. Reveals, actions, and reactions are amplified on the internet, can drive transparency and rapid change for consumers, businesses, and regulators. This looks at Twitter as a communication tool for citizens, Twitter as a communication tool for consumers and businesses, and social media as a communication tool for citizens and regulators. The open internet can be messy but effective. Consumer, business, and regulators key to work together to amplify good and minimize bad. There's a quote on that. And are we at the first step in a long journey? Recently, as published in Vox, there was a crowdsourced algorithmic Bill of Rights that was put together, and these things always start in one way, shape, or form. It was good that it was endorsed by Jack Dorsey at Twitter, and I think a lot more to come there. In a highly regulated internet can favor state control. If we look at freedom of speech in the United States, it's a long-standing thing of a lot of importance to all of us. I have a quote from 1927 and most recently 2017. Brandeis in 1927, if there be time to expose through discussion the falsehood and fallacies, to avert the evil by the processes of education, the remedy to be applied is more speech, not enforced silence. Similar things said by Anthony Kennedy, a Supreme Court Justice in 2017, and this contrasts with the opinion about free speech and openness around the world. Cyber attacks, sophistication and scope continue to rise. State-sponsored actor attacks are rising. Large-scale data provider attacks are rising. Monetary extortion cases are rising. Attack to detection dwell time continues to fall. Cyber attacks, opportunities are created by online system weaknesses. Two-factor authentication, incomplete adoption limits effectiveness. And cyber attacks are increasingly focused on sensitive data. And cyber attacks effects are amplified by state sponsorship. With all that, I'm going to move to some good stuff, which is work. Strong economic indicators, internet-enabled services and jobs are helping. If we look at global GDP, China and US and India are rising. US is falling. Cross-border trade is at 29% of global GDP. It's foundational to the global economy and has been growing for many years. If we look at global relative unemployment concerns, very high outside the US and low in the US and trending lower. If we look at the view of unemployment concerns around the world, the US ranks much lower on concern than many other countries. And this is an example of how it's been trending lower specifically in the US. Consumer confidence index is high and rising. Economy and unemployment. Unemployment's at a 19-year low, job openings are at an all-time high, and wages are rising. If we look at on-demand work, it's creating internet-enabled opportunities and efficiencies. This looks at small business-enabled payment processors, specifically Square and Stripe, and their growth. This is a quote from Tony at DoorDash. 5% of America's restaurants' business of $800 billion in annual sales is delivered. We're still in the very early innings of the development of on-demand delivery and services with a lot of opportunity to help local merchants. I showed this slide earlier, 56 million on-demand consumers, 7 million on-demand workers, up 22% year on year. Checker's platform for job applicants, more than 20 million people have been on the platform since 2015 and growing rapidly. On-demand work is creating internet-enabled benefits. People that are getting on-demand work were previously unemployed. They want to learn new skills. They were underemployed. They want flexible work hours. This looks at the trends at a lot of the on-demand platforms and their growth. Remote work is also creating internet-enabled work opportunities and efficiency. This looks at the percent of Americans that work remotely, up at 5% versus 3% in 2000. Zapier is one of the greatest examples of this, and they say that the co-founder and CEO, Wade, says, with well-connected tools and processes, any remote employee can feel more focused, productive, and in control of their time, and we believe that to be true. Benefits of remote work, number one, flexible work hours, ability to travel, and more time with family and more time at home. With a little bit of a smile, we ask the question, are we moving to a new world with Zoom by day and Fortnite by night? Online education, a market many of us have been hoping for and looking at for a long time, is really beginning to have some big numbers and big growth. Education costs are rising in the US, as is student debt. Post-secondary education enrollment is slowing in the US. And online education learning, offline institutions are expanding their reach. If we look at online education enrollment, it's high across a diverse base of universities, public, private for-profit, and private not-for-profit. If we look at online education courses, top offline institutions are ramping their online offerings at a very rapid rate. Most recently, University of Pennsylvania, University of London, University of Michigan, and UC Boulder. Online education and learning platforms, University of Colorado Boulder. I've spent too much time in California. Online education learning platforms scaling in different shapes and sizes. I'm just going to click through a bunch of companies that are growing their user bases very rapidly and talk about what the categories are. Online education program managers. This looks at the growth for 2U. Online education marketplaces, Coursera. Online education marketplaces, Udemy. Online education paying for post-graduation income sharing to pay for the education, Lambda School growing rapidly there. Online education learning tools, Chegg. Online education learning tools, Quizlet, and also Remind. If we look at online education, remote video chat, VIP Kid is one of the global leaders here with a very impressive growth trajectory. Baiju's virtual classrooms in India. Online learning broadcast broad-based video, YouTube educational content growing very rapidly. Online education job-relevant skills. Google's growth in creating certificates for in-demand jobs growing rapidly, doing that in collaboration with Coursera. 80% of Coursera's revenue comes from business, tech, and data science, people taking courses for job-relevant schools, and the number of companies that are paying for those classes for their employees continues to grow at a rapid pace. So online education, high interest, retention, and completion rates vary. The paid learners complete at a high rate. The tourists do not complete at such a high rate. Online education, more growth, more users, and more choice is lowering the cost for consumers. This looks at data from Arizona State University. And the good news for all of you, I'm about to end, and then you can look at this stuff online in the way it's supposed to be viewed. And I can have some water. Immigration is important to USA technology leadership, and this is just an update of a slide we've updated before. In the US, 60% of the most highly valued tech companies are founded by first or second generation Americans, 1.9 million employees. This is an update to USA Inc., just one slide from that. 61%, USA entitlements account for 61% of government spending versus 42% 30 years ago, and shows no sign of stopping that rise. Noah Knopf pulled some great stuff together on healthcare, and again, like education, there are a lot of trends that are really moving in the right direction. Digital impact expanding across the ecosystem. Healthcare, we just pulled two slides from that section for here. Healthcare is steadily digitizing, driven by consumers. The trends are very powerful. And I think my closing slide is a slide with a quote from Tim Cook. Healthcare innovation, Apple hardware and app stores leveraging research for consumers. Tim Cook said in January 2019, if you zoom out into the future and you look back and ask the question, what was Apple's greatest contribution to mankind? It will be about health. And those are big words. And with that, I'm going to move to the China section very quickly. From Hill House Capital, we look at WeChat. This is great stuff. WeChat innovation, evolution from chat to mini programs and payments. Alipay from payments to a super app. 200,000 mini programs, 1 billion users, 70% use 3 financial services. And that's our disclaimer. And thank you very much.